Hi, welcome to Kingston Coffee Conversation. I'm Bob Fennessy, the host, and the town administrator for the town of Kingston. And we'll have an exciting episode today. With us today is Sue Woodworth, our recreation director. Welcome, Sue.
Thank you.
And please join me in a cup of coffee.
I will.
From and obviously these children's cups, so it's because you do a lot of work with the children. So welcome.
Thank you.
So let's talk a little bit about where you came from and how you got here to Kingston. So what's your background in recreation, or even in life?
Sure. Well, I grew up in Marshfield, so not too far from home, and I went to school at the University of New Hampshire and Bridgewater State College, it was called then. And my degree is in exercise science and physical education. So I started out in that particular area. I worked for a big company and was the director of corporate fitness and facility when businesses had a lot more money.
Where was that?
That was in Westwood, and I can't remember the name of the company, and I did that for...
Not long ago, huh?
It was a long time ago. So I did that for a while, and the business changed where they had to close down the fitness facility, and I did personal training for a little bit, and then I was hired by Pilgrim Healthcare and worked in the insurance agency business, designing and developing wellness programs and marketing, and part of that included recreational aspects and different event planning and things like that. And I worked there for just over 10 years, and I had 2 young children at the time, and my company was moving from Dedham to Wellesley. From Kingston was a little bit too much of a commute for me, so I looked at other options and was fortunate enough to find the position at the Recreation Department for Kingston.
So was it just an opening that you saw online, or?
It was actually a friend of mine, a colleague of mine at Pilgrim Healthcare, knew that I was looking for something else before our company, my department was moving to Wellesley, and she actually happened to see it, and she told me about it and said, I think you'd be a great fit for this. So I did interview for the position. I think there were about 3 applicants, and it was a part-time position, so I went from a full-time job to a part-time job. But again, it worked out well with my family at the time. So.
Yeah, and were you living in Kingston then? Or
I was,
Marshfield?
yes.
Kingston?
Yeah.
So you're from Marshfield originally?
Correct.
Yeah, so what's your take on Kingston, being here as the director of our Recreation Department?
I love Kingston. We moved into town almost 24 years ago, so it's been a little while that I've been there, and I think there were about 7,000 residents, so it's more than doubled since we've moved in. I think it's a great community. It's a small community, but I also think it's a really great cohesive community. A lot of people care about each other, and again, being fortunate enough to work and live in the same town, especially doing what I do, it's great to have that opportunity to meet so many different people, and it gives me a little bit more of a personal vested interest in my position, as well as working for the town, just because I live there as well.
Yeah, and I'm sure you can't go into a Stop and Shop or somewhere else without some children jumping up to say hi to you, and I know you, I know you. It's kind of like a teacher, too. They have that same situation.
It is. It's a great thing. My kids grew up playing sports, so I was involved with the different sports in town. 2 boys, and so a lot of times we would go to the different games and different things, and I'd have a lot of families do just that, as you said, and it's great because you also get a lot of feedback and a lot of ideas from the people that live in your community, and I was fortunate enough to have that so that I can continue to just try to give people what they're looking for.
And how long have you been the director now?
Almost in my 17th year.
17th year,
Yes.
and yet she's only 30 years old.
See how
so
that works?
So that's really something. Yeah, so congratulations on that, 17 years.
Thank you.
With one town.
Yeah.
I often kid that to my friends that for me it feels like an adopted town, being here as the town administrator, and I'm sure being here for 17 years, it's not even like an adopted town. It's like your town that you've been here. So that's great. So the Recreation Department does many things, and it's probably the busiest department in our town, in the town municipal government. Why don't you kind of walk us through a typical year? I know that's a long time, but starting with the summer, say, and the events that go on and the programs that you have.
Sure. So the way our programming works is we do a lot of things quarterly, and seasonally. So for example, as you mentioned, the summertime usually encompasses June through August for us. And I think this past year we had over close to 1,800 registrations and almost 200 programs just in those 3 months period of time. So the summer program is our biggest program, so it's called our Summer Playground Program, and we have anywhere from 200 to 300 children per session, and we offer 3 sessions. So that's one piece of it, and then we have an extended day program that also has another 60 or 70 children, and that's just one avenue, but that is an extremely large program. And then in addition to that, we do a lot of other clinics, different clinics, and in the summertime we do mostly children's programs. However, throughout the year, come September and through December is our fall program. We do programs, a lot of programs for adults as well. So I know a lot of times people do think it's just children related, but we have many adult programs. We do adult painting classes, yoga classes. We have a pickleball program that's going on right now. That,
I was going to bring that up,
yes.
pickleball. Why don't you tell us what that is? Because people
Sure. So
never heard that term before.
I had never heard about it either until about a year ago, and we actually had a resident, which is how we get a lot of our new programming, which is great, come into our office and ask us about pickleball. And I had never heard of it, so I did some research and went online, and it's a great sport, and it's very big down south in Florida. A lot of people who are either retired or just looking for a new activity. I had played for a little bit once we researched it a little, and it's a kind of a combination between tennis and racquetball is the only way I can think of describing it. It's a smaller court. I'm not.
Is it on an inside? Is it inside?
We actually have created 2 indoor courts in the auditorium at the Reed Community Building, so we've taped out some space and we're able to have 2 courts there. And then they play outside during the year, so we've used the tennis court down at the Grays Beach Park down there this past summer. And quite a few more people are participating. In the beginning, it was tough to get it going because, as like you said, a lot of people don't know what it is. But it's a very active sport. People think, oh, it's maybe a sport more for older people. But it's not. It's a pretty good workout.
So are there teams?
It's
They
kind of more
develop
pickup
teams?
games,
Is it-
so people rotate around. There's 2 on a side, like doubles tennis, and they'll play one game, and then somebody will partner out, and a new partner will come in. So it's really just pickup games and just for fun. I know down in Florida, there are some really big leagues, and they do different competitions and things like that. We're not at that level yet, but you never know.
Yep. Okay, and before you get into the winter, I did see a couple of other events going on at the Recreation Department. One I thought was very interesting, and you don't think of it being part of recreation, is a painting program for grandchildren and grandparents from 8 to 80. So
Yes.
explain how that came about and
Sure.
the popularity of it.
Well, we had some space down in the lower hall of the Reed Building that the senior center used to occupy, and when they were able to move into their new location, it's been a space that's been a little bit underutilized. We had a kitchen in the area, but we haven't really done any kitchen programs because they used to do their luncheons. And so it's a space that I've been looking at for the last few years, trying to figure out what can we do with this space. It's not really cohesive right now to Board of Health requirements for cooking and things like that. And spend a lot of money on something that we weren't sure didn't really make a lot of sense. So just recently, we renovated that area a little bit just with some paint and some resourcefulness. The floor we redid, put some new padding down on the floor and things like that. And we're calling it the Kingston Art Studio. So the goal down there is to create a space, twofold, is to create a space for artists to potentially come into the facility and maybe have open studio hours where they can bring in their own projects and their own things like that. And then also offer more art programming. I just think that's a need that the community should be able to have more opportunities for. And that grandparent and grandchild was one of our artists who started teaching some programs, came up with that. And it's just started out. We've had one more next week, I think Wednesday the 18th. There's another one, so if people haven't registered, they can go to our website and do that. And but it's been very successful, and it's exciting. I'm very excited about the potential of having kind of a community studio. We did receive some money from the Sampson Fund last year and the Kingston Cultural Council, which was fantastic to help us with supplies. So that was exciting.
So being the grandfather of a new first grandchild, I'd like to get involved in that, but he's only 3 months old. So what is the age of that?
I think that was ages 8. Ages
Yep.
8 and up, just so they'll have a little bit more of an attention span. But we may offer more programs for younger ages as well as we move forward.
And the other thing I noticed online is the programs with teaching different languages. Tots for French, teaching them. So tell me about how that began in the recreation department.
Sure. That was, again, another person actually had come to us. So a lot of times what we'll do is, going back to the seasonally, is we'll put information out there through social media or our website to let people know that we're in the process of planning our next session of activities. And if anybody has any new ideas for new programs, to give us a call and contact us, or we'll reach out to new instructors. So we actually had, again, a resident of Kingston come to us and said that she was involved with this program and really would like to offer it. So it was Portuguese right now, I think, German, French, and Italian, I believe.
Yeah.
So it's exciting. It's one of those things that's new. A lot of people haven't seen it yet. I think we've offered the French class, and the Portuguese class actually starts up pretty soon. So we're very excited.
And you're
about
right. And most people think that it's just basically sports programs that are being done at the recreation department. But if you go on the website, you see this array of different programming that's out there for people in Kingston and outside of Kingston.
Correct.
Can come and utilize those programs.
Right.
Okay, so now shift into the winter, as that's fast approaching.
Yes. So we are in the planning process for doing all of our winter. Some of our activities slow down. As you mentioned earlier, we are responsible, the department is, for many properties. So the field complex will be closing in the next month or so, and it gives us an opportunity to do a few more programming inside the facility, and also just take an opportunity to take care of some things inside the Reed Community Building. But as far as the programming goes, it's the same process. We're in the process right now of getting new program ideas, and people can present them to us. We do have on our website under our, so it's kingstonrec.com, and on our website under department info, there is a program proposal sheet. So anybody can actually come to us and present a program that they would like to offer. And our goal is to have the building, filled and used as much as possible. And so for the winter, it's similar programs. We're doing a new program we're starting. It's going to be called Sweep Hockey, which is something we're started in
That's
creating.
how you sweep the floors? You just
Well,
put a mop on the end of a hockey stick?
At the rec department, right? So that will help with the cleaning of the floors. No, I'm just kidding. So it will actually be an indoor street hockey program. So why we're calling it Sweep Hockey is instead of having the plastic blade that potentially would scratch and ruin the floors, they'll be putting some kind of a covering on top of the blade. So it would be like more of a sweeping action. So that's a program we're excited about starting for this particular winter. And all of the equipment actually has been donated through part of the Bruins organization. We have one of our recreation commissioners, Melissa Bateman, who's very proactive. She also helped us get the NFL backyard flag football program that we just started about a year ago, and all of the equipment was donated. So
Really?
it's exciting. Yeah.
Wow.
So.
Okay, so that's the winter. Now we
Correct.
go into the spring, and that's when things start picking up again with the sports,
Right,
the outdoor
absolutely.
sports.
So a lot of the way things work, we do offer outdoor clinics in sports activities and things like that, but a lot of the youth leagues are actually run by their own separate organizations. So for example, Kingston Youth Soccer, lacrosse, football, they're all separate organizations, and they're actually part of an organization called Kingston Youth Sports Organization, which was created about 10 years ago when our athletic complex was open. And they're a great partner with the town and the recreation department, where they kind of manage all of the sports parts of it, and we manage and oversee all of the property, and we really do partner up with them. So the sports do get busy, and that sometimes is a challenge for the recreation departments, because children and or families and parents are not necessarily as readily available to take on recreation programs. So we try to offer more maybe one-day workshops or one-day seminar type things, which are more feasible in some people's schedule in the springtime. And then gear up and get ready for the summertime.
The big push
Exactly.
in the summer.
Exactly.
And, okay, so that's awesome. The amount of work and the amount of programming that goes on there. How do you do it with such a small staff?
I think it's just really resources, and for me, as I mentioned, I've been there a long time, and I did start part-time just only a year ago. I went to a full-time position, and as well as my colleague Debbie Doherty, who's been there the same length of time I have. Two of us part-time was very challenging, but again, we've been very fortunate. We work in a community that people are very willing to help out and support us, and now being full-time, it does allow for a lot more opportunities. And I think it's just teamwork. We all work really well together in our department as a team. We all are there to chip in, and everybody have areas of responsibility, but at the same time, if something needs to get done, Debbie or I are the first one to go move things around, or vice versa. Our other colleagues, Joe Colby, who's head custodian, does probably much more than any custodial activities. So I think it's just that whole team atmosphere, and that our vision and our goal is all the same, is to just do whatever we can do for the residents of Kingston.
Yeah.
So it's fun.
Yeah, good. You utilize volunteers also?
We do. And community service through the high school. We have a program. Well, the high school has a community service program. All the students have to have 40 hours of community service before they graduate from high school. So we do get a lot of opportunity to work with the high school students, and they'll come in. We actually have 2 students right now that their dad is one of our recreation commissioners. He's the current chairperson, Brian Whidden. And 2 of his children, Nina and Cole, have just reached out to me to come up with a fundraising opportunity to do, try to raise some money for a playground that we're trying to renovate in the property. And so part of that would be community service efforts, so volunteers through their friends and other students at Silver Lake, which is kind of exciting as well.
Oh, that's good, yeah. Wow. Some of the other areas you get involved with in the recreation department, one thing that's very, very popular in Kingston is the Luminaries.
Yes.
And it's happening December 19th this year.
Correct.
So what's your participation in that, and your department's participation?
Sure. So again, we're fortunate that we have a great community building, the Reed Community Center, and so what we do is we open the building up for the evening, as well as other people do, moving things, within the town. But we will offer upstairs. We tried to have local artists come in as far as musicians. So we run a program called Joy of Music. It's a music program, and the students get to come in, and their families come in and get to hear some of the students play. We've also had the high school choral group come in and do some songs, which has been great. Again, it's a great way for the different community. This year we may be working with Jim Libby Band, who is actually a country music artist located in Kingston, has his own band and may be participating as well. So we like to do that, so people can come in, listen to the music. We offer some hot cider and chocolate, and we have some food and things like that. And then downstairs in our lower hall, we have some of our summer staff that will actually work for that particular event, and we do arts and crafts and different craft projects for the kids, so the kids get to do something fun while there as well. Yeah,
and you do a lot more than that, because I've been to the last 2 Luminaries, and it seems to be the focal point is the Reed Center. After walking down the street and seeing the lights lit up and the different churches lit up, and coming into the Reed Center, there's so much activity going on, and there's a food area, as you said, and a lot more than just cider. There's cookies and candies and all, hot and cold drinks, and there's activities. There's a Rudolph to take pictures with, or a Santa, or whatever. So it's amazing the amount of work that just planning that part of it must take a lot of time for your small group of employees.
It does, and like I said, it's just one of those things that we're fortunate that we work really well together. As you mentioned, it is a focal point, and the staff does a tremendous job decorating. I can't take any responsibility for that, but again, Joe and Bill and Craig and Zach are new this year, but those are a couple of part-time people, but they just really make a big effort to make that building look great. People like to come in, the lights are fantastic, and I think that atmosphere in and of itself makes it comfortable for people to come. We also do a thing with the Pilgrim Coalition, which is the shelter in Kingston, so we do a giving tree as well there, so people can bring in hats and gloves and scarves and things like that and decorate the tree with that, and then we donate those after the luminary to the shelter, which is a great thing as well.
That's good.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about the building itself. What's the history of the Reed building?
Sure. So it was built in 1926 and was donated to the town of Kingston by Mr. and Mrs. Reed. I believe they lived in Worcester themselves and had I'm not exactly sure what they were in the industry, different industries, but I do believe they used to summer in Kingston and wanted to give back to their community. And there's actually a great plaque inside the building that talks about that, the nativity of community and working together. And so that there is a lot of history there. It's been there a long time. We have some great old spaces in that building, and it's nice to be able to
A lot of nooks and crannies.
There are.
Huh? I know, I've been in a few.
Yes. It's a little bit strange at night when you're there by yourself. Yes. But they're friendly.
They have Casper, right? So was the property, the fields, was that part of the property from the Reeds that was donated?
I'm not 100% sure about that, so I don't really have that history. I know that that has been a part of that. We do have some old pictures that we found, and the field space was there, so I'm not exactly sure when the fields at the Reed were actually developed.
And people, the residents have commented how nice it looks now, and it went through somewhat of a little renovation with painting and staining last year. So it's looking really nice.
Thank you.
And the fields, the dugouts have been done over, so they match the building, so it gives it a nice feel of a community center.
Right.
The only is the parking. That's the biggest.
I know.
The biggest complaint I get on my desk is, the parking and getting in and out of there. And,
I know.
It's too bad we're limited in space that way. But to have a beautiful building like that, and I know Joe Colby takes pride in that building.
He does.
He feels like it's his baby, to take care of, and he's done, a great job with that. So
He has. He's been phenomenal as far as being able to move things forward. I've worked with many people over the time that I've been there, and I think that they all have really cared about the building. But Joe's ready to take it to the next level. He's always thinking about what can we do to make it a little bit better, and he is very cares a lot about the town and the community. He doesn't live in the town, but it's something that he feels very strongly about. And a lot of the ideas for the building specifically have come from him. Did some renovations in the front part of the building, the walkway, that was his. The dugouts that you just mentioned, that totally came from his idea, just to have that cohesiveness when you look from the back of the building, which is, it's a great thing to see.
Yep.
So he does a good job.
Okay. The other thing I wanted to talk about in Kingston is a relationship between the Recreation Department, who oversees the fields and the playgrounds and so forth, with the non-profit groups. And tell us about that, how that came into being, and how that works.
Sure. So back in 2004, I believe it was, the Obuchinsi Athletic Complex was completed. I was not a part of the process of all of that when they were actually being built. That was already underway prior to me being hired by the town. So they all of a sudden in 2004 were built and kind of handed over to the town, if you will, to say that that was complete. And at the time, unfortunately, there was no funding source for the particular property through the town. So it was kind of a scramble to try to figure out who was going to be responsible for that property, which department was going to manage what, and where funding might come from. And at the time, unfortunately, the town wasn't able to allocate too much money to the particular property. So some money was put into the operating budget under the rec department, and it was decided that the recreation department would oversee that entire property in addition to the fields behind the Reed building. And so through doing that, we had to be creative to try to figure out different ways of trying to keep the complex the way that it should be, playable and safe, and just to keep up with the piece of property that the town invested so much money in. So that was our goal, is to figure out how to be resourceful with that. And in addition to that, at the same time, there was an organization that was created called Kingston Youth Sports Organization that does encompass, as I mentioned earlier, Kingston Youth Baseball and Softball, lacrosse, soccer, and football. And they created their own entity and their own organization and really partnered with the rec department. And the way that it works for us, we really have a unique situation. And again, it is really a partnership and a team situation. I don't think there's any other town around that I'm aware of.
I'm not aware of any.
That has anything. So when I go to some of the recreation directors, the Massachusetts recreation directors meetings, people are very inspired and want to know more about our relationship, because sometimes there can be some challenges with different towns in the sports organizations, and we really don't have that. We're very fortunate. So that organization over the last 10 years has done multiple fundraisers to raise money, not only to pay their user fees, which they pay almost a good portion of what it costs to operate that particular facility. So the town does bill them, and then they raise that money through their other fundraisers or through their sports organizations. And then in addition to that, they've done a tremendous amount of capital improvements over there and have donated all of that to the town. So any time, because the town just hasn't been able to do those things, we haven't been able to put money towards capital improvements over there. It's really, the budget that we have really just allows to just maintain it at a really pretty low level. But the youth organizations are very proud of that place as well as the town is, and are proud to have people go there. So it's a unique situation.
It is, and it's a beautiful complex, the Obuchinsi complex. down there. I know there's tournaments that go on all the time. It's an easy driving, and you stay there and you can watch the games
Right.
and then get out of there. So it's really well done, and it's well maintained, and I think it's a jewel for the town of Kingston.
No, I would agree. I think so. We're very fortunate to have that piece of property, and it's nice. And we're actually expanding it now. We received money from CPC a year and a half ago to do two new basketball courts down there. So that's exciting as well.
Yeah.
So it really is a full athletic complex down there.
Okay, and kind of to wrap up, what do you do when you're not working all these hours of putting together these programs?
For fun?
What's your fun thing?
I like to do a
interest?
lot of different things. I really am an outdoors person. I like to be outside as much as possible. So I have run in the past. I wouldn't consider myself a runner, but in my 40s I did a few half marathons, and now I'm really more into cycling. So I like to bike a lot, kayaking, anything really that I can do outside, hiking with my dog.
Well, there's plenty of trails in
Keep
Kingston
moving.
to
There are.
do that. Yeah.
There are great. And then we've been working with the Conservation Department too to try to do some family hikes and different things like that. There are so many areas in town that I wasn't even aware of. So, so I'm always busy. I don't have much downtime.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you for coming in to join me today. And I think it was informative for the people out there to kind of get a sense of who you are, what the department does, and the vast array of different programs that are going on there. It's phenomenal, in my mind, that on your limited budget, what you can get accomplished.
Well, thank you, and I do appreciate you inviting me here as well. It's nice to be able to share all that information with
and I'm
everyone.
sure people will find that interesting. So until our next cup of coffee, I want to thank everybody for joining us in here, and we'll see you again next month.